Hello and welcome to the Tennis Podcast, live from Wimbledon on day 4 of the Championships. I'm Catherine Whitaker, this is Matt Roberts, this is David Law, this is our incredible crowd of diehards. And tonight's episode shall be known as Andy Murray Trauma Bonding. Is everybody ready for this? Because
Sure.
I know I'm not, so I hope you two can do what Emma Raducanu's going to have to do on Saturday and hold up your end of the court and more, because David and I have come from centre court about 45 minutes ago, and the ceremony that Wimbledon put on to mark the end of Andy Murray's singles career, obviously it was following on from a doubles match, but that's what they were celebrating today. And Matt and I have just come from his press conference alongside brother Jamie, and he's confirmed that his singles career is over, so he won't be playing singles at the Olympics. He kind of tossed that line in there, but he's confirmed for us that that's what tonight was all about. We have seen the end of Andy Murray's singles career, and it was marked tonight in pretty incredible fashion by the place where he had three of his greatest successes. David,
Yeah.
you look suspiciously okay. What's wrong with you?
It kind of had to be. I was commentating on the second set of it. I get emotional about a lot of things. I actually didn't get that emotional about this. Probably because I was...
see the video,
Because
David?
I was commentating. Yeah, I saw it. I think the moment I did get emotional was when he hugged Jamie after the interview, because those two are the ones that know the most about what they've gone through to get to where they are, and how special it's been for them, and how long the road has been, and how that journey is now at an end for them as a partnership on a doubles court. And Andy Murray has got still mixed doubles to play, and maybe will have something at the Olympics, but there's no getting away from the fact that a tennis player's career is short, even when it's long. And Andy Murray's had a long career. That's the best part of 20 years. I was reminiscing in our commentary about the first time I saw him play at Wimbledon in 2005 as a boy, winning a first round against George Bastl, and how our BBC former tennis correspondent, who was in the latter years of his reign as a broadcaster on 5 Live, said on that very day, "I think I've just seen a future Wimbledon champion." And that was on Andy Murray's first ever singles match win, and that's 19 years ago. And he said, "Game, set, and match, Andrew Murray." That's how we knew him back then. And I just think that whenever somebody really important's time comes to an end as a tennis player, it's always emotional. We've seen a lot of them. I've seen Andre Agassi and Pete Sampras, people that were very important to me. But I think with Andy, I don't think I've ever seen anybody who doesn't want to stop being a tennis player as much as him. And I think that really gets everybody in the stadium. He's done all this stuff. He's meant this much to a nation. He's won everybody over, and nobody's got a bad word to say about him inside that stadium. But you can't change the fact that it's over as a tennis player for him, all but. And he can't dress that up. It's sad for him.
Yeah, when he said, I wish I could have played forever, did that not get you?
Yeah, for sure. No, absolutely. It's tough being. It's wonderful, isn't it? They have these incredible lives and these incredible highs. But my mind always goes back to when Andy Murray sort of retired for the first time, we thought, in Australia. And I'll never forget Andy Roddick saying to me, "Your best interview, your biggest moment of your career might still be ahead of you. And for us, it doesn't really matter what we do. It's not ahead of us. We've had an incredible high that people like you will never know, but it's gone. And we only have the memories now. And we only have the videos, and it's tough. These athletes, it's really tough, and it's tough for all the people who care about them. He's He gets you, Andy Murray. There's no question about it, and I can understand. Everybody I've spoken to is incredibly emotional about it, and I've often tried to wonder what is it about Murray that gets people like that. But he does, for sure.
It's the human among superhumans thing that Matt touched upon the other night, I think, and Jonathan Liu once wrote an incredible piece about and many others have too. It's the fact that he's achieving completely and has achieved completely unrelatable things whilst being relatable.
Yeah, well put.
And I think, look, I know I probably relate too hard, because I realised today, 2005 was my first Wimbledon as well. It was not the first time I camped on the street without a tent. But it was the first time I worked here as a ball store assistant, dressed as an adult ball girl, collecting balls from the practice courts. So yeah, my first Wimbledon was the same as Andy Murray's first Wimbledon. We're the same age. My career has completely coincided with his, and the unspoken thing when we talk about sporting mortality is that we're talking about mortality, right? All the language is the same. It's thinly veiled, but it's all there. And yeah, it feels like pretty profound stuff.
Yeah, you're not just saying goodbye to Andy Murray as a tennis player, you're kind of saying goodbye to who you were when you were watching Andy Murray as a tennis player. And we've all spent so long watching and thinking about these players, and there are always new exciting players coming along, but you can't just replace 15-20 years worth of investment into someone, and when it's their goodbye, it's kind of our goodbye as well. And I thought that was perfection tonight from Wimbledon. That video, oh my God,
yeah.
having
whoever made that video, I'm sure they're not watching, because this is far too low production values for them. Sorry, cameraman Matthew, this is you're doing sterling work, but that video was something else, wasn't it? It's a tough man and a tough career to try and sum up in a 5-minute video, and they nailed it.
Yeah, and having Federer, Nadal, Djokovic, who have obviously been the defining players of Andy Murray's career, along with him, and then Venus as well as someone who stands for so much of what Andy Murray stands for, I thought was perfection. And it was almost like they were welcoming Murray in to a club that they know about. Look, I know Novak Djokovic isn't retired, I know Rafa Nadal isn't retired, I know Venus Williams isn't retired, but they've all contemplated it in the same way that Murray is now, and it was kind of like, you now know something that we know. And yeah, it was just very special. Another
reference which will absolutely mark my age as being exactly the same age as Andy Murray, but it was like the end scene in Titanic where she's climbing the stairs, the staircase.
Yeah, and
towards the ones that have already climbed the great staircase of heaven.
Yeah, no, it was, and I hadn't appreciated how much vomit was going to be in Andy Murray's speech, and how sort of important vomiting has been in Andy Murray's career and his major moments.
In the words of someone on the barge, and I'm so sorry I can't give this person credit because I read this comment just moments before we were coming on air, but somebody on the barge just pointed out that we might have been experiencing post-puke Andy Murray for the last 15 years.
That's why it's been so good.
Yeah, exactly. Just a few more moments, I think, on the ceremony, which I agree was absolute perfection. Andy Murray's face when Subaka walked out.
Oh, Subaka!
That was a stroke of genius for it to be Subaka. Sue. Yeah, absolutely.
She's been there at all the major Murray moments, really.
It was wonderful. And just to clarify for anybody watching, she wasn't being booed. They were chanting Sue.
Yeah.
Sue Barker would never be booed in this country or any country, quite frankly.
It was the great warmth and a great opportunity for people to remind Sue how much she's meant to them. In this country, she is the person that we associate with this tournament for the last 30 years and a couple of generations really of tennis, and as you say, with Andy in particular, and I think he trusts her. I think she feels just very close to him in terms of history, and she was very emotional 2 years ago when she had to call time on her Wimbledon career as a broadcaster. She's having a great life, I'm sure, and when it's wonderful to see her, but she misses it. She misses that job. You can't do it forever, but it's a reminder for us all, isn't it? That it's fleeting, really, and we just try and make the most of it while we got it.
And I thought it was perfect the way that Sue was sort of setting Murray up to just tell stories. Like, because that's what a career's kind of for, isn't it? Like to give you stories, to give you memories, and to be able to tell them many years later. And there Murray was telling them now. Like, I thought that was really, really special. And there's something just about Murray that, like, he's kind of already grieved that first part of his career. Like, Murray is a player whose career is in two such distinct halves. There's pre-hip and post-hip, and from 2008 to 2016, and obviously before that as well, he was rising the ranks and becoming a contender. But for that 8-year period, he was winning Grand Slam titles and becoming world number one and mixing it with three of the best players the sport's ever seen. And yet he's also had such a long period of his career from 2017 onwards, kind of ruined really by the hip, in terms of what he could possibly achieve. So he's kind of already been through that process, and I thought it was just telling how much of what the stories he was focusing on were about kind of the first half of that career. I think he's able to be much more reflective on that first half in a way, and the second half's just been so unbelievably tough. And I think obviously Murray was very, very sad today, but he was a little bit more at ease with it than I was expecting, in terms of just now in the press conference, him saying, I'm ready to finish playing.
He knows it's the right time.
He knows it's the right time.
He doesn't want it to be the right time, but he knows it is.
Right. I've not really heard him just put that into words before.
He's not agonising about whether he's made the right decision.
And I think that in itself has provided some kind of pain relief. Obviously, he doesn't want it to be the case, but he is accepting.
And incidentally, on the pain relief front, I really do think he was in pain with the back today. I really do.
It's mad to me that he pulled out of singles on Tuesday.
Yeah, it looked like in the first game he was feeling stuff that was not good.
There was a big wince, wasn't there, that led to a collective wince inside centre court, and I'm sure the world over. Just finally on this, David, picking up on what you said earlier about, I don't think anybody has ever loved every aspect of tennis more. There's an element of that I don't think I quite realised until tonight, until just now in his press conference. He said there is not a single thing about this sport and this lifestyle that I don't love. He said I still love the travel. I love the training in the morning. He said I love everything. Most players, even the ones that are gutted to retire and don't want it to come, they'll say, well, I won't miss the travel. I won't miss living out of a suitcase, or I won't miss having to be on the treadmill on a Monday morning. I'll miss competing, but I won't miss all that stuff. He's going to miss it all.
Yeah. I think Roger Federer was a little bit like that, maybe in a sort of, he made it seem easier in a way and more enjoyable in that way. But yeah, Murray's so entwined with the lifestyle, and I think that will be tough to give up, and it makes me feel that he is a prime candidate to coach in the future on just about every level. I mean, even
within 18 months he's going to be coaching.
There's a little hint in there, wasn't
Yeah,
there?
he basically said it on the court.
I'd be more comfortable in that box, the coaching box, than I would be in the Royal box, and we all get what he means. I think he is so fussy about his game. Look at the fact that he made a racket change like a few months ago. What is that? It's because he wanted to. He's so curious. Is there a way that I could get even better at this age with this hip? Is there a way I could get more out of my game? So I could just imagine him as a coach, just totally investing himself. I mean, I'm sure he wants to be the best dad he can be. I know that he does. He wants to be the best everything he can be at home, and he's a good man.
But that looks different for different people,
of
course,
doesn't it? And that's not to detract from that lifestyle. But I think the type of character he is, he's going to want to think about a horrible word, but a project, something he cares deeply about, that he can compete with and make incremental improvements with, and that to me would be coaching.
And I know he's been quizzing a lot of players about the place, a lot of retired players that are now coaching. He's been quizzing them on how they've filled the void. He's been crowdsourcing for what the next phase of his life might look like.
He's been doing that for years, hasn't he?
Obviously his two daughters being in the crowd today, that absolutely ended me before the match when I saw them being seated by Judy and Kim and being handed a little dog toy as a sort of comforter. Yeah, exactly. We've got Jude, they've got a sort of Billie Jean like dog toy. That was beautiful. Oh, no. And obviously everybody that was there in the Guard of Honour was lovely. It was wonderful that Novak Djokovic was there. I thought that was so classy and so right. Mm. There is a mystery though, isn't there?
Where was Federer?
Because he was at Wimbledon today. We know that. Mm. And yet he wasn't in that Guard of Honour. I wonder if he didn't want to be because he knows the effect he has on the centre court crowd. Maybe he thought that would be taking away from Murray's spotlight. I don't know. I cannot fathom why Federer wouldn't have been involved otherwise.
Yeah, maybe something else was going on in his world. I don't know, but I was.
Well, it wasn't an hour before.
Yeah,
he was chatting with Caroline Wozniacki in the clubhouse.
Yeah, I'm a bit surprised.
Yeah, me too. I think you might be right. I think Federer does funny things to people at Wimbledon.
And look, he's played in a Wimbledon final here against Andy Murray with the crowd cheering for him.
Yeah.
I do wonder if...
But he did watch him last year, didn't he? Remember?
He did, but he did steal some attention. Did become about Roger Federer then. So I wonder if that informed a decision today. I really don't know, but...
Possible for sure.
Yeah, because...
It's a curious one.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, we've got to go and talk about sort of other tennis.
Other stuff happened today.
It's been an amazing day, actually.
It has been an amazing day, and nobody would have enjoyed today's tennis more than Andy Murray. The tennis connoisseur that he is. I should probably do some formalities before we start talking about the rest. Please do like and subscribe to the channel and like the video if you're enjoying it. If trauma bonding's your thing, please do let us know about that by liking and subscribing. I've got to wish a very happy birthday to Pam Shriver.
Hey!
Happy birthday, Pam.
Happy birthday,
happy
Pam.
4th of July to all Americans, and a particular happy 4th of July to Pam.
Sorry we're not in Wimbledon Village having drinks.
Yes.
That was floated as an idea, but there's this live show we've got to do.
Thanks to the Wimbledon shop for kitting us out in our many, many required layers for this evening, because despite the fact that the weather was significantly better today, the sun came out and everything, it's still extremely cold at 10:24 p.m. So thanks for the threads, Wimbledon shop. Do make sure you head over to the Court One shop if you're coming here, and if not, check them out online. They ship globally and the stuff is absolutely lovely. And hello to the Robertses who were on Court One today.
Yes, and they had a pretty good day.
They had an okay day at Wimbledon.
Yeah, they went on the hill and watched all the all the Murray send-off, which I think was an excellent decision. That's pretty special to have been on site at Wimbledon on this day. And my dad only saw half the day due to an electric cable sparking at home incident. But otherwise,
he wasn't bothered about Harriet Dart and Katie Boulter anyway.
It was a very elaborate ploy to get out of watching that apparently he wasn't into. But no, I think they had a nice day.
We will talk about Harriet Dart and Katie Boulter, but should we circle back to Novak Djokovic, who finished his match a lot earlier on today? He would have had to wait around quite a long time and go to some efforts, I think, to be present on centre court for Andy Murray's ceremony. He needed 4 sets to beat Jacob Fernley, the young Scot, on centre court today. He's 2 sets up. He seems to be cruising, and then he drops the third totally out of nowhere, David. Ends up coming through in 4, but that was not good Novak Djokovic for a couple of sets there.
No. And it was, very good Jacob Fernley, but even so, it was a big surprise to get the first 2 sets and not win in straight sets. Is not very Djokovician. And he was in a little bit of a perilous situation in that 4th set. There were moments where I actually went and looked up.
The grounds will be closing in around 15 minutes. Please make your way to the exit gates and make sure you take all your belongings with you. We hope you've enjoyed your day here at Wimbledon and wish you a pleasant and safe journey home. Thank you.
Well, that's cheered me up.
As I was saying, the point at which it was close in that 4th set, I went and looked up the names Pete Sampras and Barry Cowan. Because in 2001, a fellow 7-time Wimbledon champion in the latter stages of his career was 2 sets to love up against Barry Cowan, and it came back to 2 sets all, and Sampras eventually won in 5, and that was the year that Sampras lost to Federer. And it just felt very similar suddenly. Obviously, Sampras, I think, felt nearer the end. He did win another Grand Slam after that at the US Open, but it looked like a real problem for Djokovic that he's not putting this guy away. And Fernley was up for the fight. He was quite prepared, and the reason I did that is because I thought this is going 5. The way it was going, it felt like it was going 5. Still think Djokovic would have won, but anyway, at that point he sort of got himself out of a little service game problem and then broke, and that's it. But he's going to have to improve a heck of a lot to win this title, and I fully believe that he's capable of doing it, because we've seen him throw in dog's dinners of matches before in 2nd and 3rd rounds and still end up being incredible in the last 3 rounds, but that was not great.
No, it wasn't, and it was very windy today, and Novak Djokovic is not good in the wind normally, and he referenced that. He did feel like the conditions were kind of tough to play his best tennis in, but it was noticeable how he got worse. Like, it wasn't like he came out playing really poorly. I was on court for the first set, and okay, it wasn't vintage Djokovic, but he was just comfortable, keeping Fernley at arm's length, doing exactly what he needed to. Cruise control, really. But it got worse as the match went on, and that kind of goes back to what you were saying the other day, and that suddenly he seemed a bit gassed in that 3rd set in the first round. I don't think that was necessarily the case today, but there was a drop off, and there's just been a few occasions like that this year. So it's just exactly the kind of match that I think is just going to kind of play tricks on your mind, because you're going to think, oh, he's really not playing that well, and then the next thing you know, he's holding aloft the trophy in 2 weeks, or he's going to come unstuck, and we're going to look back on this match and think, well, the signs were there. Like, it's kind of a boring take to have, but I don't think we know what this match means until kind of further down the line.
Alexei Popyrin next. That far down the line?
I would be surprised. I think I've seen that match quite recently.
Yes.
I can't exactly
Yeah, they played
remember.
in Australia.
Yes, and look, that was 5 sets, wasn't it? I think Djokovic won through.
It was very competitive.
It was very close circumstances in the end, because he had his 5-set match in the first round, didn't he, Djokovic, as well, against the Croatian young player whose name escapes me.
Dino Prismic. I don't blame you for it escaping you, because he has totally disappeared since that match. I haven't thought about him since.
But there's just a load of unknowns about 2024 Novak Djokovic. This is not a question mark over his greatness, because you still expect, based on history, for him to dig in and find something. But in 2024, we've thought that a lot of times, and it just hasn't happened. So, it's wait and see, really.
And he is saying all the things that have been true in his career up to now. He is saying he needs matches, he needs time, he's confident he's going to get better. So, there's no reason sort of long term in his career to doubt any of that. But as you say, this year does cast some doubt. Crucially, he said he's not worried about re-injuring the knee. I don't think his movement has been its most explosive. I don't think it's needed to be. But he does say that he's not concerned about it in terms of making it worse. He just needs to find his form, really.
I think Rune in the 4th round is the one we're all looking at, isn't it? Rune of unexpectedly being in the Andy Murray Guard of Honour fame.
That Guard of Honour generally was amazing, wasn't it? It was a bit like, there's Holger Rune. Alongside Leighton Hewitt, and there was Novak Djokovic, and there was John McEnroe, and Martina Navratilova, and Conchita Martinez. But that is an interesting match ahead, yeah.
You either needed to be British or a Grand Slam champion or Holger Rune to be in the Guard of Honour.
I mean, they sort of had 4 on each side, didn't they? So is there anybody outside who's waiting and Rune got in ahead of them?
It really made me chuckle when I realised it was him, and it's so Holger Rune somehow. Of course I'm here.
Yeah, why wouldn't I be?
Yeah.
So there's a moment on the centre court. Sign me up.
Imagine if he just turned up and just said, "So, what we doing there?"
Yeah.
I heard there was a party.
I heard there's this thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, we can't tell him to leave now. He won in 4 today against Cyboch Ruch after dropping the first set. Plays Alice now, so it's on track for Rune against Djokovic in the next round. Although Popper in on grass could be interesting.
Murray beat Popper in a few weeks ago. That's
his last ever win.
Yeah.
In singles. Probably the biggest shock of the day. I don't know, on paper it's Tsitsipas, isn't it? We'll come on to talk about that in a moment, but it feels more like Jack Draper going out is the shock of the day, really, to Cam Norrie. And if you watch the match, it wasn't really a shock. Cam Norrie was so good. It was vintage Cam Norrie. It was the sort of tennis that got him to the semi-final here 3 years ago. And Jack Draper, I think it's a step too far personally to say he was poor. I don't think he was dreadful, but it was Jack Draper of old. It was zero progress. David, when you were previewing this match, you referenced their match they played at Queen's 2 years ago, and I was far too dismissive of that at the time, because in my head I just went, that was a different Jack Draper.
And it should be a different Jack
and
Draper.
It should be, but it wasn't. It was a very similar match to the one they played at Queen's 2 years ago. Too similar.
And that's 7 sets out of 7 that Norrie's won against Draper. Actually, this was more like the Draper of 2 days ago. And I'm afraid that we knew at the time he could get away with that just about against a very good in patches Elias Imer. But he ain't going to get away with that against Norrie if Norrie's good or decent even. And I think one of the other theories was that Norrie really hasn't been good of late, and he's been terrible. I mean, Russell Fuller, our BBC correspondent, was reminding me how ill Norrie was after South America going into Indian Wells, that he apparently spent 10 days in bed because he was so unwell, and that really set him back for a while. And he's played terribly of late. He's had some awful losses, and it's felt like pretty much anybody in the top 100 who comes up against him is probably going to beat him. Well, from the very first few games in this match, you could see how fired up Norrie was. He was loving it. He was loving being... And the same thing happened with Harriet Dart, who we'll come on to. The disruptor. The chat was about the opponent, and I'm quite sure Norrie would probably not say this, but you could see it in his body language. He wanted to beat the guy and make everybody remember who he is.
The roundhouse fist pump in the first set tiebreak, back turned to Jack Draper, who was on the floor, potentially injured at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That tells you how he's prepared to go to war in that match. And he just seems like a nightmare opponent for Jack Draper.
He is, but he is the sort of opponent that Draper is going to have to beat if he wants to be what he intends to be and plans on being.
Yeah, I was surprised Draper wasn't able to produce the recent form, but for whatever reason he didn't.
Yeah, I think the rallies look like Cameron Norrie rallies rather than the sort of stuff that Jack Draper wants to be playing. It was a match played on Cameron Norrie's terms, even though Jack Draper's the one with the bigger game, the bigger weapons, and a big part of that is credit to Cameron Norrie. And he just caused Draper so many problems. There's clearly something that Draper finds very awkward about Norrie's game. He spoke a lot about the flat backhand and how that skids through, and he also said that they practice together an awful lot, and he thinks that they know each other so well that it takes away Draper's weapons. Draper said he takes away what I'm good at.
Stop practicing him with him.
Right, he's going to have to, because he's got a Cameron Norrie problem. As you said, 7 sets out of 7. Draper kind of lamented the fact that he wasn't brave enough, was the word, but he was very impressed with the intensity of Norrie. It was so much so that, because this match followed Dart Bolter, and we all know about their history and how there is a little bit of beef between them, it made me think, do Norrie and Draper have beef? Because Norrie was playing like they did. I really don't think they do. I think it's just exactly as you've both said, Norrie wanting to just be the guy again and just remind everyone and embrace that role, and he did it to perfection. He played brilliantly. Some of the passing shots he was coming up with, shots on the run, he played really, really well. And even when Draper went up a break for 4-2 in that third set, which he hit an incredible return to do it, never felt secure, always felt like Norrie could get it back. And I don't really know what to make of, because grass court season as a whole, last few weeks as a whole for Draper, progress. He's won his first title. He's beaten Carlos Alcaraz. That is not nothing. That's big milestones that he hadn't achieved before. But I think it sounded from his press conference to me like kind of the Wimbledon experience was maybe just a bit too big for him at the moment in terms of coming in as the British number one. I think he felt all that pressure, and he was pretty honest about that. And I feel like eventually this kind of experience will stand him in good stead. You learn a lot from your losses, don't you, as a tennis player? But yeah, I was kind of ready to go all in on the Jack Draper hype, and this just slightly just shows that there's still quite a long way to go, I think.
Tsitsipas incidentally lost in 4 sets to Emil Ruusuvuori, who is tricky.
Well, I mean,
grass.
you kind of flagged that one, Catherine, because you've seen him before and thought,
yeah,
why
I
isn't he
don't
better?
understand why Emil Ruusuvuori doesn't do more stuff, make himself more relevant. I'm not saying top 10 player, but have more moments like this. He doesn't, but I know what he's capable of on his day. Apparently there was some Tsitsipas family psychodrama in this match, which will shock no one. So yeah, those the two biggest shocks in the men's side in terms of results. In terms of events, though, there is only one shock today that leads the way, and that is Hubert Hurkacz retiring at match point against Artifice. You both watched portions of this match. Matt, I know you had a traumatic experience attempting to watch the latter stages of this match. Artifice, incidentally, deserved this win. It's his first time into the third round of a major. He plays Roman Safiullin next. It's a tremendous opportunity for him to reach week 2, and he looks like some grass court player, and I know you'll want to talk about that, David. But before that, we must talk about, for the second slam running, bizarre events involving Hubert Hurkacz.
How does this keep happening?
I don't know. I'm starting to think he might be a bit of a head case.
Yeah, like the evidence is there from the last two slams. Like, this was wild, truly. So he's deep in the fourth set with Artur Fils. I think he served for the fourth set, didn't he, Hurkacz? And Fils broke back, and they found themselves in a tie break. Fils up 2-1. And Hurkacz is diving all over the court at this point. Like
he's turned into Boris Becker.
He keeps doing it. And eventually he does a Boris Becker-esque dive, a brilliant one, and gets himself to set point. But in the process of that dive, or getting up from that dive potentially, he does something to his knee. Like, really bad. He's lying on the ground for a long time, and there has to be a big medical timeout, and it's set point. So he gets the treatment. A lot of strapping is put on the knee, and he stands up, and he can't walk. Like he can barely walk. He is properly limping back to the baseline. And the next 2 points are on Artur Fils' serve. Fils' set point down, and two crazy things happen. Hurkacz even deciding to carry on was pretty crazy, because he could barely move, and it wasn't like he was a point away from winning the match. He needed to win that set and then a whole other set. That was just never going to happen because he couldn't walk. So that was the first crazy thing that happened. The next crazy thing that happened is on the first point back that he decides to play, Hurkacz, he dives again.
Yeah, that was the most crazy thing.
What is he thinking?
So crazy that Stan Wawrinka and Germán Fils, who were next on that court, were talking about it on their way to the court. They were like, did you see what happened there? He dived on the next point.
There was a moment where I thought, oh, his knee's given way and he's fallen over. No, it was a full-on dive to try and get the ball. Like, literally the same thing that had just caused this terrible injury. He does it again. And then the third crazy thing that happened in the space of 2 or 3 minutes is, Fils wins these 2 points to get to match point of his own, which is now on Hurkacz's serve. And Hurkacz just retires. Doesn't even attempt to serve or play the point, which, look, I have some understanding. He was very clearly injured and probably wasn't able to serve. But when you've just flung yourself across the court, like, he could have at least just put an underarm serve in, played the point, and let Artur Fils hit a winner and kind of have his moment. And look, I don't think Fils had a problem with it. I think they were cool at the end, but it just seemed like a weird thing to do.
Yeah, I think this in the change the lady moment, which I know we joke about, but really was a moment of utter madness, the like of which I've never seen before. I think he goes a bit doolally in moments of stress, doesn't he? I think that's what we're seeing here, and I really feel for him, because for something he was right back in that match, and he would have been the favourite had it gone to 5.
Yeah. And like, who knows? Like, this could be a bad injury, and like, it could take him out of the Olympics.
Absolutely,
and like, him and Swiatek were probably going to play together. Like,
really feel for him, and I understand why he was panicking. But yeah, he clearly doesn't deal with those situations well at all, because this was all mad, like really mad. And I agree, like, we had a bit of a debate about this, didn't we? Like, how bad it was that he didn't let Fils have the victory, just with a underarm serve or whatever. And like, I would have far preferred it had he finished it, just underarm served it in and finished the match normally, so it doesn't, say win by retirement. I would have far preferred that, but he was so injured. It was so ludicrous that he had even played the 2 points before that. I did sort of think, just whatever. Like, let's all just get off this court now anyway we need to. I guess it annoyed me less than it would in other circumstances.
Yeah, wound me up big time. I didn't like it at all in the moment, and I thought, come on, you've just played 2 points with it. You can go to the line and just put the ball in play to let the guy get the win and get the applause. That was my immediate reaction, and then I thought, well, hold on, I've never been in this position. This poor bloke's really hurt himself and he's in shock probably, and scared and panicking and making really weird decisions in the moment, and we've seen that a couple of times now. I did ask a few other ex-players and one current player, and the view generally was, they thought it was a bit out of order as well, but I was also reminded that he is generally regarded as one of the nicest people around, so, maybe let him off.
Alison Hughes says different.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing, how people react under stress versus how they react when they're not under stress, I suppose. Look, get well soon, Hubert Hurkacz, first of all. I don't want to see the guy injured at all. It's horrible to have seen that, because it was really exciting the way he was coming back into it, and, great test for Artefis, who's got himself into a winning position, and can he hold it together and all that sort of stuff. I think he should have handled that differently at the end. Okay, let's move on. But that was my immediate reaction.
How will his US Open end?
He's trying his best to make it interesting, isn't he?
Yeah, I mean, genuinely will be tuning in to find out. So I mentioned Rune winning, Tsitsipas winning, Zverev as comfortable as it gets really against Marcus Giron on court 1 this evening. Ben Shelton beat Lloyd Harris on court 18 behind us here in a 5th set tiebreak. Matt and I both watched it from exactly where you see us sitting now. He now plays Denis Shapovalov, Ben Shelton. Fun.
Very fun.
I mean, it feels a bit inconsequential for the tournament. I don't see either of those going deep. I don't think Ben Shelton's been very impressive up to this point. I think he was
scrapping, isn't he?
Lucky to get through there, and I give him credit for doing that scrapping. He could easily have lost, but as a sort of moment and a match, I think that'll be fun.
I think so. Yeah, it's going to be great shot making. I think the winner. I think I'm right in saying the winner would play Sinner most likely in the 4th round. So it kind of feels like that probably is the sort of climax of their tournament. It's a good quality to have, to be able to scrap and fight when you're not playing at your best. And we've seen Shelton play an awful lot better than he has done this tournament and this grass court season generally. I've seen him play really top quality tennis. He's not doing that at the moment, but he's
carrying a couple of niggles, isn't he?
He is. He's got the strapping on his knee. I think his shoulder's been a little something for a while. There's stuff going on. I just don't think he's playing that well. I just don't think he's figured out grass, how best to use his game. But I love watching Ben Shelton. I just find him irresistible to watch. And
are you a USA guy? There was a lot of that.
I'll surprise you. No.
Yeah, there were a lot of those guys.
There's a lot of them. He doesn't
today.
need me doing that as well.
No. Final update for the men's draw. I filled you in on the latest in the Rinderknech Fritz drama.
Oh,
well,
I'm all in on Taylor Fritz again.
Me too.
Tell me.
Have you seen the videos, David?
I know messages of exclamation were exchanged, and I know nothing of them.
Well, it was a
content.
tense match, and by all accounts, Fritz was very impressive, and in fact, very much under the radar, has been impressive all tournament. He's really carried that Eastbourne form into Wimbledon. I'm going to make a point of watching his next match, because it does sound like he's playing some serious tennis. But of course, their previous meeting was at Roland Garros last year, and that was the match that resulted in the shushing of the French crowd. And Rinderknech was asked about that a couple of days ago before today's match, and he said some disparaging things about the fact that Taylor Fritz did that, and
he also painted a slightly incorrect picture of what happened.
Indeed,
because he said that Taylor Fritz was sort of interacting with the crowd and winding them up through that match, which wasn't the case. He saved it all until the end with the shush. And I don't think Fritz appreciated the kind of wrong telling of that story.
I'm here to tell you, Matt, he did not appreciate it. So he absolutely killed Rinderknech today, and then at the net gave him They did a handshake, but he hard stared him down. Like, he made sure, looked me in the eye, and he said, "Enjoy your trip home." And he was asked about that afterwards, and he said, as soon as I saw Rinderknech's comments from a couple of days ago, the match was basically over. I'm a very chill person. I don't do anything that could rub people up the wrong way. So when someone just goes out of their way to take a shot at me, then I'm just not going to take it. It gave me the extra fire to win. When we shook hands, I just said, "Have a nice flight home." And Rinderknech replied, I'm still in the doubles.
Oh, somebody tell Novak Djokovic to wind up Taylor Fritz.
I know.
Oh, good shout.
I mean, I want to see angry Taylor Fritz against
Oh,
people.
it's the best.
Fritz said, he told me he was in doubles still. I said, oh, congrats, good for you.
It's just brilliant.
Don't disrespect me before the match and then expect me to be nice after the match. That's not how it works.
Good work, Taylor.
Oh.
Okay. Right. Let's get him something else to be pissed off
Artur
about.
Rinderknech brings out the absolute best in Taylor Fritz.
Yeah, seriously. I love that. I want to see more of that Taylor Fritz. Please, Taylor, if you're listening. Okay, moving on to the women's draw today. Big shock in the women's draw with Jessica Pegula going out. I feel like this got a little bit lost in the course of the day. It was earlier on. It was when a lot of things were happening. A lot of the British attention was focused on the first match on court 1 between Harriet Dart and Katie Bolter. But I consider this to be quite a big shock, Matt. I had Pegula going far here, and I didn't have Wang Jinyu pegged as a potential upsetter. I didn't have this on my radar as a potential upset today, and I certainly didn't after Pegula saved match point in the second set tiebreak, took that second set tiebreak and the momentum, and it really felt like she was the favourite going into the decider, and it couldn't have been more different to what I was expecting.
A totally one-sided third set in Wang Jinyu's favour, 6-1, and it was like the end of that second set, which was really tight, as you say, just hadn't happened for Wang Jinyu. She just completely carried on as she had been through the first portion of the match, hitting big, heavy shots. Her forehand is actually the wing that Mark Knowles, who I was sitting very close to, Jessica Pegula's coach, I was sitting, like the media seats are very close to that coaching box, and he was kind of asking Pegula to target that shot. I think it might be the wing that breaks down potentially. It's also a weapon. A set to Wang Jinyu and 3-1 in the tiebreak. So about 90 minutes into this match, Wang Jinyu had hit 15 forehand winners and Jessica Pegula hadn't hit any. And they flashed that up on the screen, and at that moment Jessica Pegula hit her first. It was like she took that stat personally. But that was a weapon, that shot, all match for Wang Jinyu. And I kind of thought, gosh, I've got a terrible blind spot there. I haven't watched that much of her play, honestly. My main takeaway is our mate Dave, watching her lose love and love to Iga Swiatek at the French Open. And I wasn't quite aware of the weapons that she possesses, I would say. And she brought them to the fore the whole match. Incredibly impressive the way she kept doing it in the third set, having lost the second where Pegula had saved a match point. Pegula was flat though. All match she was flat, and one of the things I love watching Jessica Pegula for is the way that she is so sort of steady and focused and controlled, even in really tight moments. She's steely. And yet she never sort of was able to carry that into the third set. It was just a bit flat and lame, really, in that final set. And she never got herself going or fired up. And yeah, I think it's a pretty big shock, really, considering that she won Berlin on grass and reached the quarterfinals here last year. Okay, in the context of her season as a whole, it maybe isn't. Maybe we read a little bit too much into her finding form again in Berlin, which was a weird week, when the weather was strange and people were retiring left, right and centre, and she took advantage of all that and dealt with those conditions and circumstances incredibly well. But maybe it wasn't a proper, right, Jessica Pegula is back, which I took it to be, because she didn't really have it today, and Wang Jinyu was the better player through the match as a whole, and thoroughly deserved to win.
And now one of Wang Jinyu and Harriet Dart will be in the second week of Wimbledon, David, because Harriet Dart beat countrywoman Katie Boulter today in the first match on court 1 from 6-2 down in the deciding set tie-break. Not the highest quality match, but certainly very compelling.
Yeah, I was commentating on the first and third sets of the match, and I mean it was a hot mess, and the error count was ridiculous, really. I mean, particularly from Katie Boulter. She hit 75 unforced errors in a 3-set match, in 3 sets. And I don't think she's shying away from that. She just didn't seem to have any control over her forehand distance. It was going long so often, just rally balls. And I mean, Harriet Dart, you know, she's putting second serves over at 66, 67 miles an hour that are just asking to be thwacked. And sure enough, Boulter was thwacking them, but she didn't know where most of them were going. And I mean, listen, massive credit to Dart for winning in spite of that. You know, she's a scrapper, and she just kept on going, and she's lost 6 out of 7 matches before this against Boulter. You know, Boulter's kind of the one that gets the headlines, and she certainly got the higher ceiling of the two, but Dart was just not having it. I mean, in that deciding set tiebreak when she was 6-2 down, she was in tears during this tiebreak, but she just kept digging and digging and digging and got the win, and I thought she deserved it in the end. But it was very strange. I mean, the atmosphere of 2 British players playing against one another in this dramatic situation, and the crowd not really knowing who they should be pulling for, because they're both Brits, and most of them want British players to do well. So it was a bit bizarre, all of it.
110 errors total.
Yeah.
Apparently.
Yeah, it was.
Your dad was glad to have an electrical emergency.
I mean, I said that at one stage in commentary, it's so bad it's good. It's like one of those films.
I really enjoyed it.
It's like one of those films that you watch that is just, you're laughing out loud at how badly it's written and how badly it's being acted, but you're sort of enjoying it.
It's like watching terrible reality TV, isn't it?
Cameraman Matthew did some analysis on Instagram, which was just a photo of winner Harriet Dart with the caption "Kept the ball in play." And it was everything that was unsaid there that made that so wonderfully sort of savage, really.
And that is an absolute encapsulation of cameraman Matthew's attempt at compliments.
Yes.
They always end up as insults. Yeah.
And actually Boulter, I liked her press conference in that she didn't try and pretend that this match was something else. She really owned it. And
she's just like, I didn't have it today. Did not have it.
Which made me think back to Laura Robson's analysis that you reported on here the other day of Jack Draper, like in the first round, where she was saying it's just not coming off the racket. Yeah. He's probably not going to find it. He's just going to have to kind of get through with what he's got. And that was kind of Boulter today. I do think she was perhaps the wrong side of the stubbornness line. You know, I always talk about this, you know, stubbornness is such an important quality to have because at its best it's belief in what you're doing. But she just said, I'm going to play a certain way and not change. And I think maybe she could have tried to exploit some Dart tightness a little bit rather than just keep hitting out and keep making errors. Like there was a world where she could have reined it in a little bit and maybe won the match, but you know, she's been playing that way with great success over the last year, to be honest. She's had a great year, Katie Boulter, and she just kind of owned that, yeah, she just didn't have it today.
So Wang Jinyu against Harriet Dart for a place in week 2 of Wimbledon. Rybakina and Swiatek, both winners today. Rybakina 3 sets over Laura Siegmund on court 2. And Swiatek straight sets over Petra Martic, setting up a third round match with Yulia Putintseva.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, fun and tricky.
Yeah, because Putintseva just won a grass court tournament and they've played each other in a relatively close match quite recently, haven't they?
Yeah, on clay. And, you know, Putintseva managed to cause Swiatek a few more problems than I thought she would, even on Swiatek's preferred surface. I do think that's that's a little bit tricky for Swiatek. She was very good on serve today. Iga Swiatek didn't face a break point, won a large percentage of her first and second serve points, and I think that's going to be key, especially. Okay, Putintseva is tricky in the third round, but we're now only one win away each from Swiatek Ostapenko. Ostapenko is looking like a problem.
She's
right
keeping
now.
it up. Yeah.
Like she looks stepping
like
in, hitting winners and moving on.
Who did she play against today?
Today, I can't actually.
I've thrown you under the bus.
I can't actually remember who she
Too
played.
much was going
She
on.
plays Bernarda Pera next. I know that.
Okay, right.
Sneager.
Oh,
It was
there we go.
Sneager who she played. Yeah, early on, pre-Andy Murray. We've forgotten what that was like. Sneager, yeah.
Everything's sort of gone, hasn't it, because of the last 2
my
hours.
mascara. Yeah.
But I do think Swiatek serving well would be she's going to have to do that against Ostapenko, because Ostapenko will take advantage of.
We're already
of her
previewing
second serve.
Swiatek Ostapenko.
I'm getting excited for it.
Oh, it is. You don't want that not to happen, do you?
So is Elena Ostapenko, I think.
Oh,
Yeah.
It's
She
like
lives
she's
for it.
put Iga Swiatek as the destination in a sat nav.
She was
And
so
she's foot
excited
to
at
the
the US
floor.
Open when that was set up, wasn't she?
Yeah, she's
Yeah.
breaking speed limits to get there. Yeah, and I'm grateful for it because I want to see it.
Yeah, although it does sound like exactly the sort of thing that Yulia Putintseva would like to muscle in on. And
Yeah, that's a fun matchup too.
And there is a bit
I
of me
think.
that does want to see Putintseva
Yeah.
against Ostapenko.
Rybakina dropping a set today. I know you had eyes on this one out on court number 2. She faces Caroline Wozniacki next to.
Not enough eyes, I should say.
No, but some
I
eyes.
didn't get a sense of what happened there, against Siegmund.
Have I just thrown you under the bus
yeah,
as well?
Yeah, it's coming from both sides, really. There was so much happening suddenly. I was like, oh my God, Rybakina's just lost the second set. And that had happened before I'd even really noticed. And then I watched the third, and there was a very good reset from Rybakina at the start of the third set, and then a very long game, like a really long game that kind of felt like the crucial moment in that third set. But not convincing, not wholly convincing from Rybakina, because I think if Rybakina's at her best on grass, she's not getting involved in matches like that. She's too dominant on serve and return for those sorts of matches to happen to her if she's at her best. So I think just scoreline alone suggests to me that wasn't peak Rybakina.
Tell you what, that's impressive from Wozniacki as well, because she was down in that third set against Leila Fernandez.
Yes, and that match was moved over to court number 1, and they finished shortly after we came on air, actually, and Wozniacki got the job done. I think 7-5 in the third. Yeah, 7-5 in the third there. Kalinskaya won today and set up a meeting with Lyudmila Samsonova. Ons-Jabeur won today. 6-1, 7-5. No trouble at all from Robin Montgomery, a talented young player and a qualifier here. I watched the opening few games of this, and I immediately got very worried about Ons-Jabeur's knee. She was looking at it a lot and shaking it out a lot, but her movement was fine. She was untroubled. She was really good today, and she now plays Alina Svitolina,
Oh, that's a good match.
who's making his way to another year for Jule Niemeyer to be a Wimbledon champion. Sorry about that, Hannah.
Yeah, and I think Jabeur's looked very impressive. I remember I said on our pod after Berlin, the best set of tennis I watched in Berlin was Jabeur-Goff, and it ended abruptly because Jabeur had to retire because she was ill. But the quality in that match was great, and Goff and Jabeur have both, I think, played really well in the first couple of rounds here. And just the point I wanted to finish making on Swiatek, I said the serve was good, the return was. I've seen her return a lot better than that. I think that's something that she does a lot better on the clay than the grass. That she did enough. Like, she just had kind of 2 good return games where she locked in and zoned and surged, and that was enough to get it against Martic. She was having some physical problems as well. But it's just interesting. I find Swiatek fascinating because it's not like she's bad on grass. It really isn't. you know,
she's not Casper Ruud.
She's
lost
not
in doubles
Casper
today.
Ruud. Right. Yeah, I walked past the court. I was
who
like,
knew he'd entered?
Is that Casper Ruud?
We were walking past
Yeah.
this court and we're like, really?
With that guy that I think didn't he enter with him last year as well? Bloomberg.
Well, they're out anyway.
Yeah, he's Wimbledon doubles.
Salisbury and Ram took care of them.
Yeah.
We'll find out who's in the mix tomorrow. Can't bear to leave.
Yeah, but like, it's just interesting how normally I just think of Swiatek as like kind of the best. Like she can break so often on clay, but it just changes the whole dynamic of her matches, and it feels like her serve is so key. And I just find her really compelling viewing at the moment.
Same. Jabeur heartbreak in another final. The good news is I've got no tears left to cry after tonight, so I'll be able to cope with that just fine. Throw whatever you like at me, Ons. I'm ready. Barbora Krejcikova won today, and Jessica Buthas-Monero backed up her win over Marketa Vondrousova.
That's
so
impressive.
She'll be the next opponent for Krejcikova. And Haddad Maia won by retirement today, setting up a meeting with Danielle Collins. We'll be watching that.
There's a lot of good third rounds in this bit of the women's draw.
There really are. In terms of the order of play for tomorrow, and the order of play on the show courts tomorrow feels important because it is not a good weather forecast. Enjoy this lovely, warm, dry summertime while it's here.
Where are we going to be tomorrow?
Tomorrow looks significantly more apocalyptic. So on the show courts tomorrow, starting on centre court at 1:30, Carlos Alcaraz against Francis Tiafoe. Then Emma Raducanu against Maria Sakkari after she's told us all how much she loves court one. There you go, Emma. Centre court, which of course is, it's where the BBC will want her. I'm sure other broadcasters as well. Yannick Sinner against Mirmir Kecmanovic is third on centre court. Court one starts with Jasmine Paolini against Bianca Andreescu. That is where I'll be. Then Grigor Dimitrov up against Gael Monfils. I like that, getting court one billing, that's fun. And then Sonny Cartel against Coco Gauff is third on. And in matches that might not happen, news, Tommy Paul against Alexander Bublik is on court number 2. Jan-Leonard Struff against Daniel Medvedev. Medvedev's probably thinking, why couldn't you have put me on centre on the rain day and not a couple of days ago?
They're trolling. Wimbledon trolls Daniel Medvedev.
Kasatkina Badosa is on court 3, and Shelton Shapovalov on court 3 as well. Of course, the Shelton Harris match was carried over from yesterday, so Shelton's back out again, as is Denis Shapovalov. Ugo Humbert against Brandon Nakashima, that's on court 12. Keys Kostyuk, Schneider Navarro on 18 behind us here, and Vekic Yastremska as well.
I did think when the order of play came out, I think it's worth saying the opening day here we had 2 women's matches on centre and 1 men's. It's been 2 men's and 1 women's the next 4 order of plays. Like that, there's been an imbalance there. I know today was a men's doubles and there was an Andy Murray, but still men.
Still men.
And tomorrow, I think you said as well, like, okay,
the same, yeah.
It's the same, but then like court 2 is men's singles. There's no women's singles on there. Like, I think there's a slight imbalance at the moment that I thought they would do a more even job at that.
Start to correct, yeah. We'll keep an eye on that for sure. Okay, that's tomorrow. We'll be back, of course, with another podcast, another live podcast. If you are enjoying these live, do hit like and subscribe. Apparently, I can't say that too much. I can't say hello to Maverick too much, our Wimbledon mascot. Hello, Maverick, or our mascots, the dearly departed Darwin, Francis, and Haida and Soma. Hello to Billie Jean. She's with my brother now, and my niece, whose birthday it is today.
Oh,
Happy birthday, Nina.
Happy birthday, Nina. And Pam again.
yeah.
Hello to our top folks and executive producers, Jamie, Jeff, Chris, and Greg, and Matt. Let's have some shout outs.
We have Carrie Hopkins in Illinois.
All right, Carrie.
And Carrie is a big Kei Nishikori fan.
Ooh. You get a lot for your money, don't you? In the old 5-set stakes.
I think he played his 36th fifth set
Did
the
he
other
win
day. No,
No,
I think
he
he.
didn't.
In fact, it was a gift really that he lost, because he lost to Rinderknech.
Thank you,
Thank
Kay.
you, Kay. And Carrie. Tennis carries?
Can't think of any.
Carrie with a Y or an IE? Double R IE?
Karry.
K-A-double... Oh, wow, okay.
Mm.
Carrie.
No.
Got
No.
nothing.
Pam Shriver, let us know.
Yeah, Carrie, we'll get back to you. We'll seek expert advice and we'll get back to you. But in the meantime, thank you very much.
We've also got Noreen Riley.
Hi, Noreen.
Hello, Noreen.
Noreen is in Robbinsville, New Jersey.
Hey. They're all in New Jersey, aren't they? I love it.
So many.
Do you think we could sell out like a big Bruce Springsteen-esque venue in New Jersey?
No.
No,
No.
we don't. Not like Meadowlands.
Yes. One day. Okay. Thank you, Noreen.
And
I'm assuming we don't have any tennis Noreens, but again, Pam, Mary, let us know.
and finally, we've got Jeff Clark in
Hello, Jeff.
Michigan.
Like our executive producer, Jeff.
Yes, just the same. With a J. Jeff with a J.
Jeff with a J. Yeah.
Like Jeff Tarango,
Yes.
who I commentate with on a regular basis and who got himself disqualified here in 1995.
Where is Jeff? Not Tarango.
Michigan.
Michigan.
Yeah, and he is a graphic designer and, quote, a student of Sue Shea.
Oh. That's interesting because I think of Sue Shea as such a one-off that probably not repeatable. But
Good thesis subject.
Jeff is obviously evidence that that's not the case. Like, would you try and copy Adrian Manarino? I
No.
think of them as like a twin set.
I would love
Yeah.
to see mixed doubles, Sue Shea and Adrian Manarino.
Me
It's a good
too.
call.
He's in a bit of a slump, Manarino, isn't he?
Yeah.
After a great start to the year. Get back on the tequila, Adrian. Folks, do subscribe to the newsletter if you haven't already. It's free and it's excellent, and it's the place to keep up with King of the Naughties. And we've got to go and give David and cameraman Matthew their questions for the day.
And you've let me
For
drink
King of
this
the
beer
Naughties.
beforehand.
Yeah, maybe Matthew spiked it. It is one of my favourite parts of the day. So if you want to follow the progress of that, then do subscribe to the newsletter. The link is in our show notes. If you'd like to become a friend and support us and get access to all of our back catalogue of bonus shows, tennis relived, live shows, Q&As, all of that, lots of interviews as well, then the link to do that is in our show notes. Once again, do hit like and subscribe, and most importantly, join us tomorrow for our day 5 tennis podcast live from Wimbledon with less crying. We'll see you and speak to you then.